did surprisingly well, went to #1, so thank you all. I'm guessing quite a few of you have already checked out limitation exercises, but if you haven't, and this is your first time messing around with them, you haven't heard of limitation exercises before, let me know in the comments. So, and also if you've bought the book and you are working through it, I would love to know as well. That would be really cool. Right, let's just publish the YouTube link so people can join on there, and then I'll be chill. That's all the admin done. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Luke Lewis. I run Guitar Vivo, so it's the coolest job in the world. I will tell you a little bit about me without going too deep, but I'm basically, like most of you guys, a guitar nerd that loves all this stuff. So what I did was I got deep into the rabbit hole of guitar nerdery, went and did a bachelor's degree in jazz. Don't let that scare you. You'll hear me like playing over a backing track. I'm not a jazz guy. I play a lot of jazz. I love to play it, but I'm a rock and blues guy. I'm a failed blues guy who studied more and more to try and get better at it. So went to uni, did all that stuff, got a wealth of knowledge, got a wealth of skills, transcribing, reading music, theory, and then that's put me in this unique position where I can do this job that allows me to work with some of the world's greatest players and kind of be their springboard for ideas for teaching. So there's lots of players, you'll know the deal. There's guys that are incredible players and maybe they put a course together and you buy it and you're like, oh, they're really not that great at explaining their ideas. So I have the coolest job, which is I get to work with these guys and make sure that doesn't happen. So all of these players, it's not that they're not bad at explaining them, they're not good at explaining them. What's happened is they're not good at relating to people that aren't them. So they're explaining in the way that they needed to hear it, but they're gifted. That's why we love them. So they need someone like me who's musically challenged that goes, oh no, here's how to say it so that I understand what you're saying. So yeah, I get to work with guys, Martin Miller, well, he is a great teacher, but I get to work with all these cool guys and just be a little sprucer up and make sure that they have some really cool educational content. Last year, I worked with Chris Buck, and we did a lot of work on his approach. Guys, let me know if you know Chris Buck. And his approach really boiled down to his use of limitation exercises. And I realized that that's something that had come up all the time with every teacher I'd ever had. And a limitation exercise, just for those of you that aren't in the know, is quite simply where you place a restriction on yourself when you improvise or compose. And this isn't new. This has been done by all kinds of artists. For example, artists would like only use pencils, only use certain colors. These little restrictions. Yeah, Joel just said Chris Buck is great. Good to see some names I recognize. A lot of guys I recognize. Awesome. So basically, this has been a cross-disciplinary thing. Limitation exercises. You know, do this whilst not using the letter E, or paint using only these colors, or there are whole art forms like cubism, or is it pointillism, where they have to create their art with a restriction, with a limitation. And to you and me, the students who love learning and practicing and getting more knowledge, that sounds kind of silly. It sounds like you're doing something with a hand tied behind your back. But what it actually does is it makes you take what you know and harvest it completely, master it to a deeper level. And that's incredibly important for us as guitarists because our instrument is so visual and we get locked into patterns, and it's really easy for us to have some pretty warped priorities these days. You know, like how I'll keep like going over to fitness as an analogy. If you're into fitness now, if you're into fitness, your Instagram feed will just be guys on steroids and bodybuilders and stuff, and that's one aspect of it. But fitness of just like getting healthier has been lost, and it's the same thing with guitar in that social media has given us these things to be wowed by, these 15-second clips of fast-moving fingers and crazy things, and we've forgotten that there's all this other stuff that goes into it that we have to harness and we have to master, and that is kind of the outlier stuff. So as a guitarist, one of the greatest gifts, as a teacher, one of the greatest gifts you can give a student is when you get to tell them, hey kid, you kind of know like 95% of what you're ever going to need. You just don't know how to use it yet. And limitation exercises are a great way to do that. The other benefit of them is, you know, if you're trying to work on something, it'll blinker you into it. And so say you want to work on your pentatonic shapes, well, you can create a limitation exercise where you have to shift pentatonics every 3 notes. So in G minor, so, there's a lot of delay on that. I'll wait for that to go away. So, limitation exercises are a great way to just focus on something. And they're also a great way to break habits. And we'll get into all of these. Today's going to be super practical. Hopefully for you guys, if you want to play along, it'll be practical for you. But it's going to be super practical for me. I'm going to be playing a lot of these examples. Before we get into that, one last thing is... the idea with limitation exercises and the practice of them, I'll get into this into the book. There's 2 ways to practice them. Practicing them in real time, like you're improvising, and well, the camera's there. I've been looking at the speaker the whole time. And practicing them out of time, like composing. So limitation exercises need to be practiced both ways. They're 2 different pathways of practice. If you want to break a habit, or you want to develop an idea, but there's a lot of learning involved, you can't just go, oh, I need to learn the A harmonic minor scale, now I'm going to play nothing but the A harmonic minor scale and just go for it. No, sometimes you might need to go, okay, right, I'm going to write a lick that's in this shape and then write a lick that's in that shape, and I'm going to just limit myself to that and do some learning here. So there's some out of time stuff, and it kind of works like everything. You master it in the out of time, and then you can bring it into the real world and mine it there for more ideas. So that's another thing that's incredibly canon for musicians. Composers will write with limitations. Everything's a limitation for a composer. The orchestra is a limitation. The instrumentation. There are pieces by like Mozart and Bach where they're spelling words out with the notes they choose. It's easier for them because I think they use like the German letters for naming things, so they have more words to choose from. Whereas we could probably just do like, I don't know, rude words, face and those kind and other stuff, bed. They would like spell out their names and their initials and work backwards from that. So this can be done in 2 ways. And the other thing that I want to say is that it's not just a tick the box mindless noodling exercise. The goal of this is to come away with some sort of growth as a musician, or a technician at least. So growth as a musician, you know, you get better at dynamics or hearing something. As a technician, you get better at making a movement, better at the fretboard. So what that means is you've got to be a bit strict with yourself when you practice it. And strict doesn't just mean strict for limitation, strict to your goals as a musician. So if you're doing real-time practice and it's like, say, an easy limitation everyone does, only play on the G string, right? Like, as far as I'm concerned, that's like a fail of that exercise, because the limitation also has to be that despite whatever you're doing, you have to be making a musical idea that is in line with the musical ideas you want to make. It's got to be a statement that you might play in a song, or you might play in an improvisation, or is at least you reaching for something like that. So we can all do limitation exercises where it's, oh, I'm just going to play in this scale shape. And that's a fail because I didn't do anything musical in there. So be strict with yourself with these and have some high standards. Ooh, so John Steinbeck would sharpen 12 pencils, and when they were all worn down, he would stop writing for the day. Okay, so this is in the book. Man, limitations can cover so many things. Thanks for that, owner. That's just what it's come up as. There's so many limitations you could do. Like, I can only do 5 pick strokes per phrase. Thank you, Jerry. I can only do 5 pick strokes per phrase. So that could give you or that could give you. I got 2 different phrases, both from 5 pick strokes, and if I set myself that target and I played over a 5-minute backing track, I'm guaranteed to be playing some things that I would never have played before, and I'm also going to be, developing my awareness of how many pick strokes are going into a line, where they're going. So it's all these kind of things that come from it, and you can get inspiration from anywhere, as Jerry's just shown us. So, guys, you guys are going to hate me because I've actually decided to start this one off, because I know people drop off. That's just a fact of life. I'm going to start off with what I think is one of the most effective exercises you could do as a guitarist. And like, if you were structuring a lesson, this isn't what you would give to people on day one. This isn't what you would give to someone if you just met them. You guys are going to think I'm crazy and that I should be ignored. But what I'm going to this first exercise I want to do, this first limitation is, or this first batch, is some of the most important limitations you can do. On guitar, we are obsessed with notes. We're obsessed with other things, technique and speed. But how many of you guys have learnt scales? That's everyone will have learnt some scales. How many of you guys have learnt 2 scales? How many of you have learnt 3? How many of you guys have learnt like a rhythmic figure, like a rhythmic pattern, that, but that? And how many of you guys have you practiced that? Okay, right, so we've practiced all this note stuff, but we've not practiced any rhythm stuff. How many of you guys have practiced melodic shapes, like a up, up, down, down, down? And just taking these melodic shapes all around the houses. I'm going to need to turn off that delay, which I know how to do. But this first exercise is to get you out of this habit of just thinking of notes, and it does it in the most obnoxious, annoying way possible that will lose all your friends, and anyone in the house will think you've taken a turn. Oh, that just put a stereo delay on. So, what I want you to do is to take 4 notes, and I want them to be notes that don't go together. So I love to do this with like a, so I'm going to go A, B flat on the low E, and an A and a B on the top string. Guys, I swear this is like drink the Kool-Aid stuff. If you start to learn the benefits of this exercise, I guarantee you your guitar playing will transform. Even though this is going to sound awful. What you want to do is the goal of limitations exercises, which is do your best to make music despite the limitation. This limitation is just having a bunch of ugly notes that don't even have nice connections between them. If you can make a rhythmically and musically interesting idea from those notes, that means that you are doing well with rhythm, with contour, with articulation, with dynamics, with everything else that goes into music except notes. And then when you come back to doing it with the pentatonic scale or with a musical scale, all of that stuff will carry over and you'll sound amazing. So that's kind of why this makes sense. If you can make these awful notes sound like there's a groove, sound like there's a shape, sound like there's theme and variation, then when you go back to a normal scale, you'll be flying. So it sounds really awful. I'll start off with an easier one. Let's just take 3 chromatic notes. And I would improvise for about 2 minutes on just those. So all I can think about here is the contour and the repetition of those 3 notes. So I'll get my foot going so I feel a beat. So that should have sounded awful, but you could hear there was a contour, there was a rhythm, there was like theme and variation between it. If you can make something awful like that sound good, that means that, no, that wouldn't sound good. If you can make something awful like that sound intentional, then when you go to a scale, and I went back to the chromatic thing at the end. All of a sudden I was like, okay, I carried forward those things about rhythm and melody and variation, and I just put them to notes. And then if you have a backing track, it works. So on that topic, limiting yourself to just a few notes is also a great thing you can do. And it doesn't have to be as awful as that. You can limit yourself to some in-key notes. Let's, I've got a backing track here. I don't know how this is going to sound. Let me know the levels. I think it'll be in E or B, a guitar key. I'll start it off soft and you guys tell me if it needs to go up. So, how's the volume on that? Is that alright? You can put it in the chat. How's the levels there? Can you hear guitar and track? Okay, so might crank that a little bit. Let's take that limitation exercise of just having a couple of notes. I think that was an E. Let's limit ourselves to yeah, let's take these 4 notes here, just the 4 notes of the minor pentatonic scale, starting on D. And what I might do is set myself the goal of seeing how many different, or how long I can keep those 4 notes interesting for. That's one part of the limitation. How much I can feel like I'm making musical statements. And then what you can do is, when you're doing this, look for any habits you have. Because you might find that, oh, I've got these 4 notes, but I'm always ending on the root. Then the next time you go through, you go, okay, I'm going to stick to these 4 notes. I'm also going to avoid ending phrases on the roots. So you can use these limitation exercises to like troubleshoot and help you break habits. I'm going to try and change my camera. I might go out of sync for a second. Let's see. Oh, okay. I need to turn that camera on, and then I will change cameras. This will just give you a better shot of the guitar, in theory. Oh, it does work. Beautiful. Okay, so let me know if this should be in sync. Okay, let's get this track going. So I'm going to stick with those 4 notes. You guys can play along by yourselves if you want to practice this as well. And I'm going to see how long I can go before I feel like I'm stuck. Okay, so instantly, hopefully you saw what happens is you start to get bored and you start to get boring, and you should never be able to. We have a camera on. Oh, It's there and there. You should never be able to bore yourself when the guitar's in your hands. So I noticed, like, okay, I'm kind of running out of melodic stuff here. Guess what? I'm a guitarist and I'm obsessed with notes. So let me fix that. Let me see what else I can find interest in. And instantly I thought, okay, I just need to move the pick a bit. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I've got a new dimension to explore. So the funny thing about limitation exercises is they just take away one thing, but in the grand scheme of all the stuff we have to think about in music, rhythm, tone, touch, articulation, the timbre, everything from slides, bends, they're taking away one thing, but it's one match from a box of matches. You shouldn't notice that it's gone because there's all this other stuff to keep you obsessed or focused on, that it shouldn't be that hard to work against. And that's kind of the point. That's one of the things of limitations, is how do we fix our connection with music? How do we fix our connection with what we do when we're playing? And it's the same with thinking about this as preparation for gigs. So I might notice that on a song, you get all kinds of problems when you gig, from stage fright to everything like that. But I might notice on a certain song, I just get obsessed with like the changes and the chords. So I might actively try and ignore the changes while I'm playing while I'm practicing this song, so I can understand what that headspace is like, because I need to be able to replicate that live. So there's such an important and powerful diagnostic tool and corrective tool that this whole 2-camera setup is a little bit fresh today, so I'm going to see. So I'm still getting some kinks out of it. Yeah. So what I'd like to do there is, I'd be really curious to know if any of you guys have any things you're working on at the moment, or any problems with your playing that you're struggling to overcome, because we might be able to find that, oh, there's an exercise you can do, there's a limitation you can do that will correct that, or give you a different approach or a way around it. So if you guys have anything that you're working on, let me know in the chat. I do need to open up YouTube because there we go. Okay, got YouTube too. Right, yeah, so let me know if there's anything you're working on, and I will keep going with my list of exercises. So the final one I want to do in this whole this starting section of sounding like I'm crazy is just on that idea of, if we take melody away and we just have contour and rhythm, I'd love to know how many of you guys can play the chromatic scale like it's music. And that doesn't mean it's going to sound like music to someone else, but you should feel like you're expressing it musically. It'll still sound like the chromatic scale. It'll still, like that exercise here. That doesn't sound like music to anyone else, but my goal is to feel like I'm expressing myself musically. So how many of you guys have ever taken the chromatic scale and gone, right, what happens if I try and make this musical? So the limitation is, take the chromatic scale and you can only move by half step, and try and express yourself or create interesting musical ideas. So your go-tos on this are going to be thinking about contour, rhythm, and just the shape of the lines. So let me turn this delay off again before I drive you all crazy. Right, so take a chromatic scale. So that, to the listener, would have been like awful, but to me, I was thinking about all these things I don't normally think about, and then when I get to a scale, that was those ideas expressed in a scale and with the melody. But I wouldn't have got to that if I hadn't have gone to the chromatic scale and gone like, oh, how can I think of shapes here and think of rhythms and just contour? So that's an exercise you can try. It'll sound like you're losing your mind to everyone else, but you'll notice a mental shift when you're playing it and suddenly feeling like you're expressing something musical, because you'll be happy and other people will be wincing. Oh, so just getting into doing bends and trying to do vibrato at the same time. So vibrato is something I'm obsessed with because I have some issues with vibrato, as you might have picked up. I started off playing rock and blues and just was one of those guys. Natural vibrato was great. I went to university day one. It's a jazz uni, so we were doing like that kind of stuff. And I went, well, I'll put a little bit of volume. And the teacher was like, whoa, 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 we don't vibrato here. This is jazz. And for the whole time I was there, that really affected me, and I stopped vibratoing everything. And I went from having a great natural appreciation for vibrato, because I've been learning Zakk Wylde stuff and Paul Gilbert, everyone, to having it drilled out of me not to do it, and conditioning myself not to do it, and then trying to get back into rock and wondering why I was going, oh, why does that sound awful? Yeah, because I'd conditioned myself that you can't do this and you can't do that, and it took me a while to relearn it. So some great exercises you could do for vibrato is to do what I did, which is take away the vibrato, limit yourself to no vibrato, but try and hear the vibrato you want. And this is, it's going to be like nails on a chalkboard when you're doing this, because you're going to be like, I really want to give this some vibrato. But what you do is you take a lick, you have to play it twice. The first time, you're limited, no vibrato, but you have to hear the vibrato you want. And the second time, you execute the vibrato you want and see if you can do it. So if I aim on a pentatonic, so in my mind, I was I could hear what I wanted. Okay. So on those, I was hearing some real like Zakk Wylde, Sean Baxter vibrato, if you know him. So I did all of those things, every idea. First time I played them, no vibrato, but trying to hear it. Second time, add the vibrato. Then the other thing you can do, which guitarists are incredibly guilty of, is putting the same vibrato on everything. And that's a good limitation exercise, because it makes you aware of it, and you'll start to realize, oh, I was doing that automatically and it sounded awful. So if I play some phrases, and I'm going to play with a mix of dynamics, and dynamics and contour and note choice affect the vibrato you want to give it, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to just play around, and I'm always going to give it the same vibrato. And what that's going to allow me to do is hear those points where I'm like, oh, that's not the right choice there. But I'm just going to have to put up with it and then realize, okay, here's what I should have done, and learn from it. So I'll play so that vibrato, all the same tempo. It almost forced me to continue the lines in tempo. I'll improvise again, just A minor pentatonic, that's the limitation, but now I'm going to allow myself to be freer with the vibrato. So now I can start to hear, okay, when I was on the third, that flat third, I wanted that more aggressive vibrato. When I was on the fourth, I wanted to feather it in later. Same on the root. And what that limitation has forced me to do is understand how I want to vary the vibrato. So I played it all with the same vibrato. I might need to get a different tone, or just get my. Let me find a nicer tone that's less abrasive. So you might take a lick. Oh, well, here's another limitation exercise. You play the same lick, but vibrato it differently every time. So I'm I'm going to use the same vibrato for both notes. But that was one style of vibrato. Different feel. So that was a completely different feel as well. Now I might do it with no vibrato to hear in my mind what I want. Okay, and I'm going to play that. So it was quite subtle there. The first one was pretty straightforward. The second one, I let it grow as the note started dying out for a bit of extra sustain. But the limitation is everything with the same vibrato, see where it grinds and where you want to change it, and then everything with no vibrato and see what you're hearing. And then from there you can fine-tune the vibrato you want. Because what you don't want is for your camera to be out of focus. What you don't want is for every note to have the same vibrato. That's kind of like a it's not a beginner mistake, because advanced players do it too, but it's like a pet peeve of mine, especially with a track like Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson, or when people are covering players like John Mayer, who have such wildly different vibratos from note to note, and you can tell when they haven't really listened to the track. It's one of those telltale signs when someone's learned it from a tab. Every bend is the same shape and every vibrato is the same, because they haven't actually listened to the track, and haven't, whether or not they've listened to the track, they also haven't done the other thing of trying to hear what the most appropriate vibrato is. So that's some limitations for vibrato. Did I have any other notes for vibrato? We can stay with yeah, on that, just on articulation, we can kind of go into this rabbit hole here of this exercise, which I like to call once more with feeling. So you've all seen those actors' reels, or that thing where they go, oh, can you just read the line again once more with feeling? And this is my favourite thing to do with my daughter, because she's 2 and she can do this now. So we'll be like, say I love you. She goes, I love you. Okay, now say it angry. I love you. Say it sad. I love you. She can kind of do that, which is fun. We can do that on the guitar, and the way we do that is the same way we do it with our voice. Articulation, timing, inflection, vibrato, attack. So taking this once more with feeling thing is really good for vibrato, really good for articulation, dynamics, tonal control, and everything. Take a phrase, really simple one, and all I'm going to do is vary how I articulate it with my right hand. You'll notice the left hand has to complement it, but I'm just thinking about the right hand. So now I can bring the left hand to articulate it. So I'm doing like slides. Now, so I can slightly change the time. Make it staccato. Change vibrato. And then I can start to, so when you practice this, you wouldn't push the boat out as far as I did. You wouldn't, I'm showing you different stages of it. So one is right hand change. In there I did limitations that I would do for 4 minutes by themselves. Right hand tweaks, left hand tweaks, embellishments. So from there you might do things like, oh, what if I just ditch the pick? So I don't know if you saw. all different things. But it sounds, it can, no, actually it can't get boring. It can get boring for the listener. That's not the point here. We're practicing. Most of our practice will be boring for the listener. But if you are getting bored doing that, you might have to slow it down and go, okay, right, what can I change here? What else can I tweak? Because there are so many things that if you can't do it once more with feeling, once more with a different style, like 60 times or 100 times, you're slightly deficient in something, skills-wise or awareness-wise. And the other thing of this once more with feeling is when someone's directing that, they might go, okay, what feeling? Once more angrily, once more sad. You could actually try and practice those ways. You go, okay, right, let me try and play it beautifully. Let me play it angrily. Let me play it sadly. You wouldn't just do each one once. You would just there'd be trial and error. Like, okay, I'm gonna try and play it sadly, and you do it like 20 times. Be like, okay, oh, that didn't work. That sounded terrible. Or, oh, that made a difference. Or, oh, okay, that and this combination here. Oh, a little bit of slide, a little bend. This is how you really get to learn those things that Chris Buck can seemingly do so intuitively. Or I'm trying to think of other players that play this well. Eric Johnson is so in tune with this stuff. Andy Timmons is the GOAT. He is so in tune with this stuff. But these little subtleties that there's so many to think of, you've got to realize, okay, well, I need to limit and get rid of some stuff so I can focus on these. So that's part of the core essence of what limitation exercises are about. If anyone else has any other things they're working on, shoot them in the chat. Otherwise, I will keep going with my list of things. Okay, we can have some fun here. So you might want to limit yourself to only playing a certain rhythmic pattern. So let me check out this backing track. Let me see what the rhythm's like on this. Oh, actually, I've got this Eric Johnson tone. Let me get a different backing track. I think this one will. Yeah, so there's a simple C-sharp minor backing track, Eric Johnson kind of vibes. There's the rhythm guitar part. So I might just limit myself to improvising with that rhythm. But I'll do that over the track. And I'm not going to do this for too long. The idea is that you would do this for ages until you have nailed it, but it's not very fun to just listen to. And it can be simple, it can be complex, it can be one note, it can be a lot of notes. Let's change the rhythm here. So I'm going to play this rhythm. So I changed it to a separate rhythm at the end. But hopefully you can see how, even with the rhythmic fixation, I was still like, okay, I can, obviously there's theme and variation is easy with that. You can just change the inflection of the final note, so. But I did want to do this bigger arc, so I was like, down here, and then getting up here. And kind of building and dynamically growing, because notes are like the least important thing to fixate on when you're trying to build a solo. Everyone's like target tones and stuff. The reason it's funny. So here's the big myth about the target tone stuff. Is they're important, but it's kind of come full circle in that when like the teaching of it was really being solidified and people were like great players were talking about things and talking about things to practice, this thing became a hot topic to practice because what they wanted us to realize, or what we need to realize, is that we want notes to be so well practiced that we don't have to think about them, and that when we are playing we can think about all the other stuff like building a solo. But people kind of thought, oh, everyone's emphasizing notes because that's the thing to think about. No, everyone's emphasizing notes because you want that done and taken care of. Everyone talks about scale practice because you want that done and taken care of, and not occupying the creative juices when you're trying to actually play and make music. So that's just another big thing to think about, is there are some things we work on because we want to think about them. Like sometimes we work on things because we want to condition ourselves to be aware of them. And there are some things we work on because we don't want to have to think about them. And notes is one of them. But notes, we don't want to think about, we want to hear, react to, flow through. It's more important to be thinking about things like contour and shape and landing points and rhythm than it is to be thinking about A, B, C sharp, whatever. Or third, fifth, sixth. That stuff needs to be taken care of on an intuitive level. So, and that's limitation helps you realize, like, oh, okay, right. Stevie Ray Vaughan played out of one position of the minor pentatonic, or two positions. Okay, wait a sec. He played out of two positions, and the second position he only plays the top three strings of. That's like a permanent limitation. But because everything else has so many variables and so many things to look at, so much nuance to it, that it isn't a deficit. He's missing one millionth of the musical focus because he's got all this other stuff going for him and that he's taken care of. And the other side to that is a lot of players like whoever you like, Yngwie Malmsteen to Eric Johnson, Al Di Meola. Al Di Meola is a great example of this. To Stevie Ray Vaughan, to B.B. King, a lot of them aren't versatile players at all. They are heavily limited just by how they've learned and what they stick to, and how they've overcome or mastered what they have and mastered working around their limitation has given them their unique style. So, for example, if I had two people and I taught one of them the first box of the minor pentatonic. Oh wait, come back. Let me get in focus. Focus me. We'll go back to the main camera. If I had two people and I taught one of them the minor pentatonic box and I taught the second one the B.B. King box, they're not gonna play the same melodies after a couple of years of playing. They're gonna play completely different melodies spawned out of what's practical in those positions and what's practical for their hands. So your limitations are are more positive than you think. And we all want to be Guthrie and have no limitations, but even people like Yngwie and Al Di Meola, they have limitations. Al Di Meola doesn't do certain picking patterns, same with Yngwie. So Yngwie, there's certain lines that you play because of how he orients the pick and how he fingers his scales. So he's his melodic options aren't limited, technically they are, but they are guided by these limitations. I don't want to say limited there because it's negative. His melodic options are guided by, influenced, and creatively outsourced or creatively constructed because of these limitations. And you don't listen to him and go, oh, you're limited. Well, you might do. You might go, oh, it's just one scale or it's just this. But he doesn't feel it, and that's what's more important. So, rant on that over. Let's, if you guys, again, let me check the YouTube chat. If anyone is working on anything or has any questions about the book, or anyone bought the book and has liked one of the exercises, let me know. Let's have a look at... Okay, here's a fun one. So, a really easy exercise you can do is... Not easy exercise, it's just a fun one. Geographical limitations. We have a whole chapter about this in the book, where we talk about how we can break up the fretboard or do certain things based on certain frets and certain strings to force ourselves to break out of patterns. So it could be like, say I'm in, I'll go with the track, say I'm in C sharp minor. Really, if you want to break out of patterns, you just say, okay, right, here's some really quick ones you can do to break out of patterns. Only play 3 notes per position. I demonstrated that at the start. I'll give you a quick demo again. I hit the wrong note there. So I limited myself. I just tried to stay on 2 strings, and every 3 notes I shifted position. Another cool geographical one you can do is you can play all on 1 string, you can play all on 3 strings. Here's a fun one. You can, like a quota. We have a whole section on quota limitations where you have to hit a certain target. You have your first string, your second string, your third string, your fourth string, your fifth string, and your sixth string. Improvise, but you can only play, or you have to play, the number of notes of the string you're on. So if I'm on the 4th string, I've got to play 4 notes on that string before I can move on. This will probably go terribly, but it's easy on the 1st and 2nd string because there's not much to think about. Okay. So, that might have been too quick, but 1, 2, 3. And yeah, you can build some cool... So yeah, doing 4 on the low string. Those are just easy to remember because I just did the number of the string position. But again, you have to take a look at your own playing and go, oh right, I play a lot on the B string. So how about I'm going to improvise, and instead of just getting stuck on the B string, I can only play 1 note on the B string and then I've got to change, I've got to get off it. So that might look like this. Ha! So you can see there I was already having to find creative ways to just play 1 note on that string, so I had so that's a cool... You can start to come up with these structures that you can move around. So like 1 note, I'm just thinking minor pentatonic here. 1 note on the top string, 1 note on the B string, because that was my limitation, and then 2 on the one below. And I started low and went high. So I'm in this position. And that was something I might never have really investigated. So I can start to build. You can build a cool sequence out of that. And you think of Eric Johnson, who does all these set patterns. You can see how having your own structures that you like can become part of your vocabulary, part of how you play. Again, these great players that we love, they're just guys that have their own patterns. They just have different ones to us, so we don't immediately recognize them, or the guitar scene as a community doesn't recognize them. Like when Steve Vai came out and did stuff like, everyone was like, oh, I'd never heard that before. And you go, well, it's just a pattern of fifths on top of itself. Or Eric Johnson goes and stuff like that. Or that stuff. Or Ingrid Malmsteen goes, whatever. It's just their own patterns. So kind of coming up with your own patterns, especially ones that you haven't heard before, is great. I remember sometimes I've done really simple patterns that not many, that I don't know, that caught people off guard, and they got a great response out of them. And I was like, they were like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh, it's just a really simple pattern, but no one else had kind of done it. No. I can't remember what it was, but just these simple patterns like this one. Oh, I've blacked out again. So even just simple pentatonic patterns. Oh, I remember, right? This stuff like that. That's just pentatonics. But no, like, it's just a pattern that I worked on, that I hadn't seen other people work on. And then when you pull that one out, people are like, who the hell's this guy? Obviously, you guys will, that's to my taste. I like that one. You guys will come up with patterns that you like the sound of. Just because mine sounds not to your taste doesn't mean that the pattern thing is wrong. It just means you guys will get to pick your own patterns. If it doesn't work if you're playing over 2-5-1, so, you know, you're... It doesn't work there. You guys you still have to do you. But these limitations can help you discover little nuggets that can actually become your own strengths and your own positives and your own style. I just did that one of I showed you. We were just doing the exercise of one note on the B string, and that got me onto like sweeping through the pentatonics. That's something that came out of that. Brezia said, I'm already getting better using limitations, forcing myself to only use 3-note arpeggios. Yes. Okay. There's actually there's a thing I wrote down to show you guys, which is like on that. I don't know what kind of music everyone plays. If you're a jazzer or into more modern sounding stuff, that in the book there's some cool things on playing over changes, which if you're a beginner I don't think you'd get, but if you're intermediate and advanced you'd be like, oh okay, there's some you'd have the knowledge to run with the ideas. And 3-note arpeggios are great, especially they don't have to be the arpeggio of the chord. So you might be on an A minor and you might want to play a G major over that. It gets you a really cool sound. It kind of creates that sound. So you might limit yourself to just using the notes of G major over that A minor. The thing you can do as well with limitations is know when you need an escape clause. So for that one, if I was practicing my G major triad over A minor, I might go, okay, I'm going to limit myself to that, but I can end my phrases on a note that's inside the key. You don't want to just set yourself up to fail and like you just be practicing. You just be doing finger service, lip service, whatever. But if you go, okay, right, I'm going to do that when I improvise, but I can resolve it to the key, then you can actually get some use out of it. If we're in C sharp minor for this backing track, the equivalent of that is I'm going to play B minor, a B arpeggio over the C sharp minor. Or I can just do it over all the chords. And that's going to be my main thing using a B major triad, and I'm going to resolve it however I want. That's my limitation, to giving me that escape clause. Okay, so even there, I really liked that phrase. If you got... So, that phrase, I went... The chord in the background was an A. And I started my phrase on the D sharp, which sounds like this. You're going to love this. It's really beautiful. That's how I started that solo. But because I had that escape clause, so I went, I'm using this B triad. It worked as some functional dissonance, and then I resolved it to that third of the key. The third of the chord, should I say. Let me see if I can do that again. So even that at the end, that was my B major triad, and I resolved it to the C sharp. And the idea here is that if I was thinking C sharp minor, and I was living in my little pentatonic box, doing whatever crazy stuff I wanted to, or whatever bluesy stuff, would I have ever gone up a B major triad? Would I ever have thought about starting my phrase on the ninth? So these limitation things, I think this is in the book. This is just picking a triad from the key and using that. They give you sounds that you might not have thought of before. And then all of a sudden, that's a sound I have whenever I hear a minor chord, if I'm on A. And that outlines that chord progression. You can also imply other chords. You could do diminished. If you're Yngwie. So that's this thing of triads over, just limiting yourself to a triad. You can limit yourself to any of the diatonic triads. So if that was in C sharp minor, I can limit myself to just playing C sharp minor. Limit myself to a D sharp minor 7 flat 5 D sharp diminished. Don't worry if you don't know this stuff. If you do know it, that's fine. E major. You can limit yourself to that. You can limit yourself to chords that aren't in the key, just to create some dissonance and give yourself that escape clause. Another thing I like to do is structures. So if I'm on C sharp minor, I might take a set of intervals and move it through the key. That's one thing you can do. Just limit yourself to that melodic shape. Let's do a melodic shape. So that was just up and down. I don't think many people, I don't think enough people, definitely not enough people practice this. Just take one melodic shape. We're going to go take a note, up a note, and then down. And this in the book I've written out like 12, I think, of these essential melodic shapes, which are like encircling notes and bounce backs and push throughs and all. I've given them all names because that's how I work. But drilling a melodic shape, again, so you're not thinking notes, you're just thinking contour, is great. So there, like I started to phrase with it. So it was in both parts of that. Just up and then below. So starting note, up, below. Starting note, up, below. And then from here, I made this my new starting note. And got better at connecting like meta and micro contours together. So that's a cool thing. On this subject of triads, you can also do like suspended triads. Not many people mess around with those, but they really sit under the fingers nicely in the first position of the minor pentatonic scale. So a suspended triad is the root and the fifth. So it's a note and a note the fifth away. And if it's a sus2, it'll have the second in it. It'll be 1 2 5, 1 2 5. Or if it's a sus4, it'll be 1 4 5. And if you know your minor pentatonic box, you can play sus2 triads on each of those strings. It's a similar kind of shape. 1 2 5, 1 2 5. When I say 1 2 5, each time I'm thinking of each new starting note as the 1. Or you can play sus on yeah. So I'm going to take that sus4 shape, which is one note, upper fourth, 1 4, and 5. I'm just going to move that around and see where that takes me. I won't stick to one of them. I've got multiple sus4 shapes. In the key, those three. 1 2 3. Don't worry, you can watch, if this is something that's at your level, you can watch the replay of this to dive deeper into this. So yeah, lots of just moving that one shape around. Another I'm just throwing these things at you. Another cool one to practice with that will just get you out of some habits is you have to include a certain interval in your line. So you might say, oh, I've got to include a fourth in every phrase. So a fourth jump. That's the fourth. Or every phrase has to start with a fourth, and then you can do whatever you want. So let's have a listen to that. So there I did a descending one, and every phrase kind of started with a fourth. Another thing you can do with that, so this is to help you get better with intervals and hearing intervals, is every new phrase has to start a fourth away from where the old one ended. Or you could say every new phrase has to start a third away or an octave away or whatever. You can pick an interval and say every new phrase has to start this far away. So I'm going to make it more clear where I end my phrases, and then you should see me popping up or down a fourth. Let's have a go. is hard. Lots of mistakes in there, but like, so that note is a C sharp. So I started a fourth away. So I ended there. So you can see how I'm just breaking that autopilot that I might normally be on, of I can just start wherever I want and go wherever I want, and there'll never be any consequences. Yeah, you could even go, I need to start every phrase on the 9th. No matter what octave, before you know it, you'll realize that you're quite limited with how you treat notes. Like, oh, when I play this note, I always end it like that. So if I'm going over a backing track for 4 minutes, that shape is going to get boring pretty quickly. So before I know it, I'll be like, let's put that limitation on. So I'm just going to start every phrase with the 9th. Every phrase has to start on that fret. Sorry, I got distracted by me going out of focus. So you can start to see how one time I was ending here, one time I was ending there. Sometimes I played the 9th there. Sometimes I started by bending into it. It's just ways of saying you are a guitarist who's studied this for so long and already knows 95% of the things you'll probably ever need to know. Where's the missing articulation and elements in what you've already got down? Why doesn't this sound as good? Why do I go into these patterns? And then paying attention to them, fixing them, addressing them, getting not bored out of your mind, but being strict with your practice. Like, one thing I can't stress enough is this is probably the most boring thing to watch me going. If I was to actually even practice this, these things would be going on even longer and longer and longer, and you'd see me playing the same ideas over and over again, trying to get new material out of them. That's what this is. It's mining. It's chipping away at the slab of marble, and it doesn't look like the finished product till the end. When you practice this, if from your position, or when I'm practicing this from your position, it'll sound boring or it'll sound repetitive, but when you're doing this, it should never feel that way. It should always feel like you are looking for the next shiny object, the next place to go. It should always be fun and challenging. The last thing on that is, we'll just do the opposite, is I started all of my phrases on the 9th. Let's end all my phrases on the 9th. This will be the last example. If anyone has any questions on anything like picking or whatever that... God, I need to practice that stuff. On anything, let me know, theory, whatever. But I'll do this last example and then I'll do a final rant and let you go. So ending every phrase on the 9th. Now, one of the great things about that exercise is you'll hear, because I force myself to end on that note, you'll hear exactly when it rubs against the chord. And because I force myself to stay there, I'm, as someone who has a slightly musical mind, my brain is going, oh, that should go here, that needs to go there, that can resolve that way. So sometimes these limitation exercises sound terrible, but it's you're going to be picking up on how to fix it. So there are phrases like where I wanted to hear that do on the end, but I forced myself not to play it. But then I was able to become more aware of what I needed to do, because so many times we take things for granted. Oh, this note's in the key, it'll be fine. Doesn't matter that the chord's changed. Doesn't matter that it's the fourth on this chord. So this is just another thing where it's taking the blinkers off through the limitation of nothing's for granted, and you've got to be critical. Mark, good limitation exercise for improving burst speed would be great. Speed burst is a really interesting topic. That's something I have talked for hours about. Not today, but limitation exercises for that. So for those who don't know what speed bursts are, if you have an exercise, whatever it is, or just tremolo picking, a speed burst is when you want to get faster. This is where it might get different between people if they know what they're talking about. If they don't, is where you do short bursts really quickly and then relax. Short bursts really quickly, then relax. This is the theoretical way to get faster. This is the technical, physiological way to get faster. But what most people do is, no pick. I want to play. Wait, Brazy, can you say no? You want to get faster with your fingers, or you just want to talk about picking? So the thing that people miss is that speed bursts, like your limitation exercises, well, not like your limitation, they should sound good. Speed bursts are meant to be performed at a speed that's called supra-maximal. So that's the nerdy thing. Supra-maximal means faster than you can perform it really at all. So essentially what happens is we create a demand higher than we can do. So some people will say speed bursts is like you play and you just do a little quick one, or you do it at your top speed. Oh, what? That's not a speed burst. Doing something at your top speed is not a speed burst. That's just bursts of speed. Speed bursts to get faster is where you are going to sound are trying to perform at a speed quicker than you can synchronize. The reason I'm so I'm speaking so awkwardly about this is because I know what this means. It means I have to demonstrate this, and if you don't understand what this means, you're just going to think I have no idea how to play. The idea is to play faster than you can synchronize, then it will sound good. So it'll sound, if you're doing a speed burst correctly, it won't be in time. It's going to be at 120, well, it's going to be 20% faster than your maximum speed. So if I go to my maximum speed, my speed burst needs to be like, to the point where it's not making sense. It doesn't sound usable. Speed bursts won't sound usable. They won't sound in sync. They won't sound good. What they're there to do is to create a neural drive and to refine the neural movement, the neural signal to the muscles, and to expose the muscles to that demand, this is where it gets dangerous, to create some sort of momentary muscular fatigue that we then super compensate from. This is all like strength and conditioning stuff. If you want to, is it Vachansky? I forget the strength and sports science. It's just over there. Verkhoshansky, I forget his name. He's got his things on super maximal training. It's that. So basically, you take an exercise, you practice it faster than you can actually play it, and what that does is, if you think about it, there's a speed you can play something at. There's a speed you can play something at cleanly and usably. Above that is the speed you can just flail your fingers at. What people think they have to do is take that speed that they can play something at and push it up. And they think that's going to happen by staying at that speed. If you want to run fast, you have to do some bouts of running at your top, of trying to run as fast as you can. And trying to run faster than you can, and your body just does what it can. If you have that speed above it, which is the maximum flailing speed, which is useless, but if you stay there and you try and increase that, it also brings up the maximum usable speed. What it doesn't do is it doesn't automatically give you coordination and accuracy. It just gives you access to a speed, and then you have to also come down and work on the accuracy and the synchronization. A really important thing, as with anything, supramaximal training, going beyond what you can do, even though these are small muscles, you don't do it every day. So I don't practice for speed at the moment at all, because I know that if I do want to play faster, I can practice speed bursts for a few weeks and kind of play faster. If you know how to do them, once you get to an experienced level, because it's so neurological and not really muscular, you don't have to practice them that much. It's just exposure, and you can get it back really quickly. When you're trying to get to that level, again, you don't want to practice them that much because they are fatiguing on the nervous system and on the muscles and the joints, and you can get issues. So if you are practicing for speed, it's just like a sprint. You wouldn't sprint every day and think you'd get better. The great thing about it is that what it means is you should practice speed bursts 3-4 times a week, depending on your level, sometimes not even that. But it means that you don't have to practice for speed every day, which means your guitar practice on another day can be ear training and music and licks. So if you've got a lick you're trying to do, or a solo, like a... Where's it go? I haven't got enough frets for it, that's why. Oh, I can't do that one then. If you've got a solo, you don't practice it every day trying to speed burst it. One day you can do your speed burst. The next day, do it at 80% of your speed and work on your coordination. So going faster than you can play works on your maximum speed. Practicing slower than you can play works on coordination and accuracy and synchronization. Same things. I will say it's really important to work on your coordination. Most people don't have to work on their coordination. It's like, yeah, of course your hands can do things at the same time. It comes from the same place, and it's usually a condition. If you are struggling with coordination, there's usually something else going on. However, if you do things like speed bursts that expose the hands to that stimulus, you can then get used to being out of sync, and when you come back, you then will need to work on coordination, synchronization. Really simple exercise. It's just to take 4 notes. At around about that speed. I'm going to play it as synchronized as I can. Then I'm going to rush the right hand, leave the left hand where it is, come back to synchronization, and then I'm going to delay the right hand, come back to synchronization. So what I'm doing is I have an element, and I'm getting this in sync. Then I'm feeling what it's like to be out of sync one way, coming back, feeling what it's like to be out of sync the other way, coming back. And then when you understand that range, you can dial it in. So I'm in sync. I'm going to rush the right hand. So I can feel my right hand is hitting the string just before the finger goes down, and then I'm back to sync. And already that synced state feels even more in sync than it was when I started, because I just went out and came back. And now I'm going to delay. I'll exaggerate that so you can hear me fret first. Because yeah, most people think they're in sync and they're still maybe slightly one way, slightly the other way. So just do this, feel what it's like to be foot ahead, feel what it's like to be behind, and then things will click when you come back to the middle. And you can do that with any exercise. Those of you that have just tuned in, that was me purposely going out of sync and coming back, and then going out of sync and coming back again. Speed bursts also don't have to be both hands at once. If you're playing a lot, like playing a lot of gigs, you maybe don't need as much left hand fatigue. So you have to be tactical with it. Some days one hand might feel better, like, okay, I can do my speed burst with just picking. And I'll just have to do one note on the left hand. Because, yeah, it might hold it back or it might not be ready. So yeah, be smart with it. It's literally like the gym. You don't train every muscle every day. You take some rest days in between, you get some good sleep. There's... Sorry to have gone down this rabbit hole. I hope you guys are enjoying this neurological thing. If you ever... Here's a cool thing to do. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and set a timer for a minute and count how many times you can dot this piece of paper. Do that on 3 or 4 separate days. Get an average. If you ever have a day where your guitar playing just feels like it's not great, or you want to do some speed bursts, you're like, how's my nervous system today? Am I still fatigued? Well, you go and you do that test again, and if you have significantly dropped that pen count, that dot count, you know that your nervous system is still a bit fatigued. You might not have slept well. Again, it's like training. We don't just want to tear down and tear down and tear down. We want to be in a good state and then wreck yourself, so that you can come back stronger the next time. Does that make sense? It's the same thing with legato. Your speed burst for that should be kind of sound awful. You find your top speed. And then, really important thing with speed burst, they're not long. They can be 4 to 15 seconds. Like any longer than that, it's too much. So you would find your top speed. Hear that in your head, and then hear what's faster, and then try and go for that. That flailing is what it's meant to sound like. Again, this is why I'm so cagey, because I'm like, I don't want record of how this practice sounds, but that's how it sounds. So yeah, those are speed bursts. You can do them with licks, do them with anything. Take time off. If it lasts 15 seconds, you can take 2 minutes off. One thing I'd like to do was I set a timer, and I set a timer for like 1 minute. I do my speed bursts for 10 seconds, and then for the remainder of that minute, I just kind of relax, do my ear training, maybe practice the scale shape I wanted to practice, give myself some time, and then go back to it again. So you can find, the cool thing about speed bursts is, because you have to do them so infrequently, and you have to take days off, is that you have all this time to practice other stuff, like bending in tune, which I can never do. So I can already tell from doing those speed bursts, I'm feeling out of sync. Yeah. My left hand needs some time after that. Handle with care. I haven't signed a medical disclaimer or anything, but speed bursts, if done it too much, are a problem. I can't stress this enough. I haven't done them since I was like I worked on them mostly when I was like 16, and yeah, haven't done a proper practice schedule other than that one time last year when I went to pick at 400 BPM and worked up to that. That was it. Any final questions or thoughts? The book, Limitation Exercises, is out now in all good bookstores. Thank you all so much for making that #1. That's my first ever solo book that I didn't do as a collaboration with another artist. So thank you. That kind of meant, like, I don't want to that's up there with the most meaningful number ones, because I don't want to put anyone else down. Like our first ever number one with Tim Lurch, every number one's meant something, but this one I didn't have to share the celebrations with, so I got to enjoy this one a little bit more. So thank you all so much for that. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any final questions or anything else, now's the chance. But other than that, I might just have a little noodle over this backing track. Speed bursts with a metronome. Here's the thing. Yes, you can do it. But the goal is you set the metronome to that speed that you can't do, and you have to aim for that speed. So when I was trying to pick at 400 BPM, I had the metronome at 400 BPM, and I'd hear what that sounded like, and then you'd spend like your 10 seconds trying to get there. The metronome is like a gravitational pull that you aim for, and then you turn it off. So you don't use the metronome in that typical, start it here and push it up 5 BPM every day. No, you find out your max speed, you set it to 20% or 15 to 30% higher than that. Hear what you're aiming for, because remember, this is a neurological thing we're trying to do. Then try and jump on the moving train and get out of it, and try not to get dragged under. Guys, thank you all so much. When you play speed verse, are you always palm muting? No, that's just now for this tone. Especially if I'm doing like hybrid picking or economy picking. But I do love palm muting. Yeah. Again, palm muting is a great limitation exercise. Hey, I'm going to do everything with palm muting. Hey, I'm going to do everything without palm muting. Hey, I'm going to palm mute the start of every phrase. Let's do that. I'm going to play you guys out, unless you've got more questions. I'm going to play you guys out with just the limitation exercise. I'm going to palm mute the start of every phrase, and we'll see what happens. Okay, the timing was awful. I'm too busy thinking about the palm. Fuck it. No. Palm mute. I can't even do that anymore. Okay, that's enough of that. Right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys will have some fun with those exercises. I brushed over a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff there, but each one of them could be practiced for hours over the course of weeks, and it's like that thing of, it's instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, you take one little thing and you go down as far as you can, and I guarantee you'll have a great time. Now there's only a few of you, I can do the exercise that I talked about at the start that will lose friends and alienate people. Because we've had a turnover. The exercise I said at the start, I've got to get you to buy into this. You take 4 horrible notes, see if you can make them interesting and groove. And if you can do that, then when you got the right notes, it'll sound good. So here's that for those people that I didn't do that for. Okay, so if you didn't tune into the start, that would have made no sense to you. But you take 4 horrible notes, and you learn about contour, you learn about dynamics, you learn about all that stuff. And if you can make it fun to play for you, you're winning, right, guys? I will see you all soon. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for your support. If you have questions, email me, and I will get back to you as soon as